Hello and welcome to this second lecture of parts identification and process design section in this course on winning prototype development. I am Arun Singhal, your management coach and mentor with 40 years of experience in people development. So in this section, we have been working on understanding how to identify the parts and how to design the process for a winning prototype development to build your business. And in this last lecture, we learned about that we need to use QFD process to determine the product requirements. And in this lecture, we will take a look at each of the steps that we need to do in the QFD process to determine the product or parts requirements, right? Ready for that? So how do you think we can go about using QFD process to determine the product or parts requirements? This is QFD2, right? Where you see design requirements are an input and output will be the product or parts requirements. And we have already done QFD1, so this process is going to be very similar to QFD1, right? So can you think about how do we go about? All right. So let's take a look at it. So we start with, like we started QFD1, we started with the CTQs and we came out with the design requirements. So here we start with the design requirements, which is the output from the previous QFD1, and we populate them on the left-hand side, left-handmost room, as so as to call, and we also put the importance requirements that we would have determined the last QFD1. And we populate that. So that is the first step. Once we have done that, we start working in the CFD to brainstorm what are the parts requirement for each of the design requirements. So we take one design requirement and brainstorm and say, hey guys, if this is the output that you want, if this is the Y and it's a function of few X's, X1s could be the process, it could be the part. So what is it or the part of the product requirement? So what are those? And we brainstorm them, map it down on a piece of paper, and then finally start writing down on the table above in the top room, as you see here, right? So, and we go one by one on all the design requirements. If we have the same product requirement or parts requirement coming up, we maybe put another tick on that, and we keep moving forward like this. And so at the end of this step, we have the products or parts requirements identified in a CFD. Once we have done, we get on to assigning the weights, the relationship weights in the center room, in which we could use the number of times a design parameter, a product requirement has come up in affecting the design, in determining the design requirements. So the number of times the product requirement has appeared in the design requirements, we could use that as a parameter, and we do it on a scale of 1, 3 and 9 plus minus. So if it's positively correlated, we put 1, 3 and 9. It is negatively used, minus 1, minus 3 and minus 9. So we populate the relationship weights. Once we have done the relationship weight, we go and fill the competitive product ratings. And this is again based on the consumer ratings on the design requirements. So how are the competitive products performing on the design requirements on the extreme left-hand side? And we put those for our key competitors against which who we want to compete. Having done that, we go to the roof and where we determine the correlation between the design requirements. And if it is a positive correlation, we put a tick. And if it is a negative correlation, we put a cross, right? As you see here. And finally, we go and determine the importance rating of all the design parameters as we did in QFD1, which is a summation process. So we take a relationship weight, multiply by the importance of the design requirement, and go on doing till the time and sum that up to determine the importance rating and importance ranking at the bottom end. Once we have done that, we have the parts requirements identified as you see the screen on the right hand side. So what we see here is that there are list of requirements that we need to have, like rice husk ash silica, rice husk ash carbon, reverse flow as a process requirement, silver wet bonded with rice husk ash, etc., that you see, colorful body parts. So we determine all the parts requirements that we need to deliver those design requirements. And since the filtering element is the most important, the topmost rank part requirements, utmost effort should be made in designing this subsystem, and that is what we will focus as we go along in the future. The rice husk also should be able to trap microbes, the silver should be able to kill them, the ultrafiltration should be able to filter out the sediments, and like this we have determined the parts requirements with the importance as you see on your screen now. So once we have done that, so what do we do next? And that's what we're going to talk about. So what is it after determining the part requirements? What is it that we do is the topic of our next module. So thank you so much for watching this second lecture of parts identification and process design in this prototype development section of winning prototype development for developing your business. I am sure you continue to learn a lot of new things, you continue to enjoy, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next lecture.